Hi, and welcome to another episode of Nursing Your Way to Wealth, where a mental health nurse and an accountant talk about wealth creation, personal development, and financial independence in the UK to help you live the life you deserve.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. And hey, Alex. Nice to speak to you again this week. And today's episode is we're going to just dig a little bit deeper into quite a common phrase or idea that we often hear get bandied around, certainly Alex and I, from maybe like some of the older generation and some a little bit older than us, around somebody's house being their pension. And I've heard it numerous times from various different people that it's almost don't have to worry about a pension because I'm buying a house and therefore my house will be my pension. And we want to just spend some of this time and this episode going through what does that actually mean and how could your house become your pension? We're not saying it can't be, but I think there's real considerations and things that need to be evaluated with when people say that kind of thing. Hopefully going to be quite an interesting debate, and we'd love to hear any comments and thoughts. Like drop us an email on what, and maybe you're somebody that's banking on your house being your pension. Be great to hear from you on that as well. So yeah, that's our the episode for today. And I think first and foremost, there's a return on heartbeats. I can cover that return on heartbeats, and then we can move on to the main body. So it was a really nice weekend of it was my wife's birthday, and we spent some time in a really nice place called Winkworth Arboretum, which is a nice kind of National Trust property just outside Guildford. And unbeknownst to us, it was actually a free day, so it was a National Heritage Day, and you could get entrance for free. So that was definitely not my plan when I went there. But we went, had a really nice walk, and following that, stayed in a nice hotel nearby and had a nice meal. So really, really nice weekend, nice and relaxing. And yeah, one thing to look out for, they do these any National Trust property. I think they do them a few times a year, but they're called Heritage Days, and it's free to enter any of the National Trust properties. So that was my intro and my return on heartbeats. Alex, over to you.
Thank you. And again, another good intro. So I'm just looking up quickly Winkworth Arboretum. Arboretum?
hmm
Arboretum? I don't know. It's definitely trees, right? Because arbor is
It is.
tree. Yeah.
Yep.
It looks lovely, actually. I've never been. I'll add it to my to-do list.
Yeah,
Uh,
really worth a visit.
yeah, love. I mean, originally created by a local physician and horticulturalist, Dr. Wilfred Fox, in the 1930s. So it's been in the care of the National Trust since 1988, which is the year I was born. Um, yeah,
Even
cool.
more reason to go.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll definitely add that to my list. I love like kind of tree bathing, etc. That sounds great, and I hope your wife had a happy birthday. Um,
Yes.
so, in terms of like housing being pensions, I hear this all the time, and now I think about it. I've heard it from loads of different people in all walks of life, from like starting work all the way up until now. And it's come from like a chap who lives down the road from me, who is a car mechanic. It's come from some fellow nurses that I work with now. It's come from some of my best friends are in the trades. They're kind of carpenters, electricians, plumbers, etc. Um, in one form or another, they've always said to me like, "My house is my pension." And I always think the first thought I have is, well, you need somewhere to live. Like you can't take a brick into your supermarket and be like, "I'll trade you this brick for this trolley of food, please." So I always wonder a bit about it, but then by the time I've kind of thought that through, the conversation's moved on and it's kind of dissipated out of my brain. But I wonder if, like Alex, you've heard it as well, but I do think, or I wonder whether this idea is it well thought out, or is it just kicking the can down the road?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. And yeah, similar, I've heard it from lots of different walks of life. And I think when I was growing up, it was certainly getting on the housing ladder was almost like a non-negotiable for most of my friends, most of my kind of family friends. Everybody was saying, make sure you get on the housing ladder. And then, yeah, not too far after people start working, it's very much, oh, cool, got on the housing ladder, and then my house is my pension. I don't need to worry. And I think just scratching the surface on that. So the house can become your pension. So and there's some ways in that can happen. So you can downsize. So if you've got a big 4-bedroom house or 5-bedroom house, and then you downsize to a 2-bedroom house in the same area, you're going to free up some money. Question is always around how much you're going to free up, and is that going to be enough to support you at your living costs, which is always the $1 million question. There's, do you move to a different area? So you could, there is big price differences between the south of England and the north of England, or same with Scotland or Wales. You can therefore sell and buy something cheaper, again, freeing up that money in the middle. And then there's loads of questions around family, friends, your network. Again, how much are you actually going to be releasing? There's other options of equity release. So you can use the value of your home and you borrow against that equity that you have in your house. And essentially when you die, you pay the bank back, and then everything else goes to your heirs if there's anything left. And the other thing is, actually, if you've had children and you have a big family home, the children have then since left. There's ways of making your house generate cash, whether that be through letting out rooms. You could start doing bed and breakfast if you live in a very nice touristy kind of place that's going to attract customers, Airbnb type
Yeah.
things. But
Next
I
to
think,
Wink with Arboretum.
I'm sure you could do quite well doing that. But I think there's definitely there's practicalities which I think with every it's a little bit like whack-a-mole in that you have one option, but then it creates a bunch of problems or issues or considerations. And I can't think I don't think many people think through that process when they say or think about having their house being their pension.
Yeah, I don't think people think about it too much either. I'm going to add a bit of science to that and a little bit of kind of health concepts. But there is a thing like in human biology it's called broadly that like, there's no free lunch in human biology. So you give a medicine to benefit one part of the body will have an impact somewhere else. So a good example of that is antibiotics for an infection. If you have, it's also the reason why any health professional will say, please finish the entire course of a set of antibiotics. So if you have some kind of sort of potent antibiotics to wipe out an infection, if you don't finish them, that will come back and you'll need a stronger set of antibiotics to further wipe your gut bacteria kind of clean. They're non-selective. It gets rid of good and bad, which is why sometimes you get some like gastric issues, putting it mildly, after those. But a small dose of that is good because it clears the infection, allows you to restart. Too much of that, too much of a potent antibiotic will shut your kidney down. So there's it's a bit of a seesaw. You have to balance all of these things out. And I think we can apply that loosely to something like this. Like, I can't imagine, Alex, when I get to 60, 65 or something like that, when I kind of can start taking pensionable things, even though I've probably formally retired before that as we're on the fire path. But am I going to want to move and sell the house that I've probably lived in for quite a long time? Probably not. I'm not going to want the hassle of doing all of those things. Thinking about the costs of all of that as well, of stamp duty, legal fees, transport, all sorts of things. Any changes you need to make to your current house to make it livable, that can add up really quickly. And if you think about, I mean, I've plucked these figures out of the sky. If you pull maybe say 150,000 of cash out of a house, and that's what you have left over after selling and moving and all the other costs. If you spend $2,000 a month, it's going to last you, what, 6 years?
Yeah, you probably would be able to buy like an annuity, and that might give you maybe £5,000-6,000 a year of income potentially. But it isn't this.
Yeah, it could give you 500 a month.
Is that, yeah?
Say, but I think it's not well thought through. And if that's the case, and it lasts you 6 years, 5 years, maybe 10 years or something, you could be mid-70s. With life expectancy now, you're probably likely to live to your mid-80s. What then happens for the remainder of that time? You've still got to live and eat and heat and be kind of comfortable.
Yeah.
I really think people haven't thought about it. They get I think, a small cortisol stress response in the body, whether they recognize it or not. And then the brain will do anything it can to reduce that down. And if someone comes along and says, "Oh, Alex, don't worry about that. You've got a house. Your house is your pension." Immediately you get that cortisol reduction, the stress reduction. Your brain's like, "Oh, thank God. I actually don't have to think about that." And I think that happens over and over and over. And people sleepwalk into perhaps potentially really difficult financial situations.
Yeah, and I think that's exactly what happens because if you're saying speaking to somebody in their 30s or 40s and you talk about retirement and old age, and you do get that immediate, oh well, if that's way too in the future, and actually my house solves my problem in the long term, I therefore don't make any sacrifice or change now. I'll figure it out later. It is that kind of it's quite calming of oh phew, like tick that off the list. And actually, you could be making changes right now to really boost and diversify your like pension because actually downsizing could be part of a plan. And it's part of my plan in a way, but you need other sources of income as well. You can't just be all in on one asset. Um, and I think that's what is, yeah, you probably don't want that. You can answer your own question quite quickly if you just assume it's all in my house and then I'm sorted my old age. That's fine. But I think one thing which I also think becomes a problem, or not a problem, but is a thing, is it's a bit like the hedonic treadmill where you get used to a certain lifestyle. And if you're used to living in a larger house with lots of space, and then the prospect of you then having to maybe live in a house half of that size in order for you to have freed up some money for you to be able to, as you said, Alex, like buy groceries or pay your gas bill. Like that's such an uncomfortable shift, I think, and not something that people. And I speak for my parents as an example of that. They've got a very nice, like, comfortable house. They host a lot of the family in that house, but they are getting older. And my thoughts have always been, well, if you're going to move, do it quite early because you don't want to be forced into moving. And they don't need it um, for the money. Fortunately, they've got other assets to help fund them in their old age. But if they want to free up money for gifting, is what they've also talked about, like they're going to have to then go from a 4-bedroom detached to probably a 3-bedroom semi-detached or like a terrace house to free that up. But then it's very quick, like the reality of that then very quickly gets shut down in any conversation. So it's that thing of not being comfortable with, it's that facing the facts almost of, well, this is what it looks like.
Hmm. It's almost a little bit facing your own mortality to a degree, but at the same
Mm,
time, it's all well and good to have an idea of a plan, or when we're older, so non-specific, we'll do this so we can do that.
yeah,
It becomes a bit of a not like it's not set in stone, but it's just an idea. There's no execution kind of happening at this point. Then when you get to this kind of stage, the reality of that, it becomes a very different thing. And I wonder whether it'll be palatable for someone to want to move from a house that they've worked hard to own, to maintain for many, many years. They've got lots of memories, raised a family in it, etc. To then go and live in potentially a terraced house, with, or an apartment, or maybe a flat, or
mm,
something like
yeah,
that. And I think it's a huge mental shift within that. And I've seen kind of my own grandparents not want to do those things, but then almost like you say, be forced into it out of necessity because they can no longer physically maintain the house, garden, etc.
mm,
that they used to have. And I think it's something that people perhaps don't plan for. And I'm struggling to think about why people don't plan for it. The only thing I can think of is they find that difficult to do, which I think, to your point of do it earlier rather than later, like make the choice instead of having the choice be made for you,
yeah,
would perhaps be a better idea. But do it with the intention of what you're going to do with such a thing. I mean, best plan: start your pension super early, and have an
yeah,
income and live in your house as long as you can. Um, but I think the
yeah.
reality is very different.
Yeah, precisely. And I think that's where I think this goes to show the importance of building up a proper pension and stocks and shares, ISAs, and other investments. Like the more that you can build outside of what in finance we call like liquid assets. So you've got, it's liquid in that if you want your shares, you can sell them and you can go and buy them, or you get paid a dividend and that's cash in your bank account. Like that's liquid. You can't access the money in your house because it's locked in your house. The only way you can access it is by selling it or borrowing against it. So it's not very liquid. And you don't want to be in that point where you're relying on the state pension and your property to fund your old age. And I think based off, looking at like the government's finances in the next kind of 20, 30 years, I highly doubt there's going to be a state pension. If there is one, it's going to be means tested.
Mm.
I think it's
It'll
very,
be minimal at best to cover your
it will
absolute
be
basics.
correct. Yeah. So it will be a survival type payment more than anything. And I think at some point it's going to have to happen because we can't afford it. But also, governments like to look at houses and property wealth for tax and raising taxes. And if you've got all of your money and all of your assets in a big house, and that's where all your wealth is, if the government policy changes, and we can see how quickly that can change, the your entire retirement plan could be put in jeopardy because of a government change and a chancellor's statement that suddenly, if you want to sell your house, then you might have to pay tax on the gains that you've had on that, or the cost of continuing to live in that house is going to cost you a lot more from increased tax, or you can't gift your house anymore, or you can't put houses into trust. Things which could come out between now and your retirement when you're gambling on this, your property being your one place to, get all your money from. I think it just highlights the importance of diversifying some of your retirement money and retirement income.
Yeah, I think it makes sense. Like, because you say, like, we are now, what, 30, late 30s, 37 ish. Um, Anything could change, couldn't it, between now and the 30 years we have in between? We're probably going to have loads of different governments
Yeah.
with loads of different ideas. And
Yeah.
what the kind of the financial environment will look like in 30 years' time will be totally different to now. And I do think that there is an awful lot of wealth tied up in bricks, and it's just a perceived value. We give it that value. You can't spend it, and people seem to think that, well, my house going up in value is a good thing, but what it actually means is your kids are going to struggle to buy houses. And like
Mm.
my children, if I'm fortunate enough to have any, will struggle to buy houses without help, which is again another thing that kind of you need to consider or think about. And I'm fortunate that I can consider it. A lot of people just won't have an option. It'll be what it will be. Um, but I think as well, the idea of, like, we've always talked about diversifying where you hold your money and your investments, like spread it out, so you're not overweighted to one particular area. I think a lot of people are overweighted to just having this one asset class, which is property, because it's done well historically for the last 40, 50 years or so. But before that, it kind of didn't go anywhere. So we've had this strange kind of uptick in value. And I think you're right. The government could change absolutely anything around it. I mean, if we think about council tax, that's not been looked at since what, the 90s or something.
Yeah, 1992, I think it was. That's when all the values of houses with like a snapshot was taken at that
Mm,
time, and then it's been increased by inflation, I think. And then that your council tax is based off whatever band that was back in 1992 for some strange reason. But yeah.
yeah. So I mean, my house is in band C. So I would pay a similar amount to someone who's also got a band C property house, but their house is worth 10 times what mine is. And I wonder if that will change slightly, and maybe us as Brits will think differently about this obsession we seem to have with must own a house, must get on the property ladder. It's a little bit kind of all or nothing, maybe, on that one. Um,
Yeah. I think it definitely could make people have second guess and think harder about whether they want to go into it. I guess one benefit of if you have a house and it's paid for, your living costs are in terms of putting a roof
Mm,
over your head is
reduced,
nil.
yeah.
Um, but I think what it might do is I think there's always that it's ingrained in us to constantly want to increase the house that we have. So it needs to be bigger, it needs to be more
Yeah, move
expensive,
up the property
and
ladder.
always upgrading and
Yeah.
upgrading. Yeah, correct. And I think that it might be another psychological thing. And say if you're gambling on then, that's going to be my pension, to then almost sell it and downsize and move down the property ladder. I wonder if there's something ingrained of, well, I've been going up and up and up for the last, 40, 50 years or whatever. And then now I'm coming down. Is that almost admitting that I'm failing is probably a wrong word, but I'm not, am I failing? Am I perceived to not be doing as well because I can't maintain the big house that I'm in or the big expensive
Mm,
house? I'm having to do that. I don't know if there's something ingrained psychologically in us, which I think also adds to that the difficulty of when rubber meets the road and okay, your house is your pension, then you're gonna have to sell it. Is there something that's then triggering?
yeah, because that's inevitable at some point. Yeah, it could be. I mean, there is some psychology brain stuff here. Like loss aversion. Like we feel
Yep.
losses twice as much as we do gains. But as you were kind of mentioning that, it made me think of the board game Snakes and Ladders. How it feels super good to go up a ladder, but terrible to go down a snake.
Yeah.
I'm just wondering if it's something like that. Like the moves feel good, positive, because you get lots of accolades from other people, and you must be doing well to afford that, and la da 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 da.
Yep.
Not knowing the true financials around it, you could own. I mean, I could drive by like a humongous house, and it could be mostly owned by the bank and debt, or it could be free and owned by the person who lives there. I have no idea. I've got no metric on that whatsoever.
Yep.
Um, but it could be that it feels good going up because you get positive stimulus from people around you. We hold a lot of our value, I think, in terms of materialism, certainly in the West,
Hmm.
and certainly in the UK. And I wonder if it will feel the other way going back down. I wonder if there's any stats on asking people who have done that,
Yeah.
um,
Because
how it felt.
I'm sure when I was talking about this with my with my parents, they were looking at houses to downsize into, and I'm sure that one would be like a terrace house. And my dad said something along the lines of, "Yeah, well, that was like our first house. We're not doing that." Almost
Oh, okay.
well, that puts us back to the start. It's like, no, no, no. You don't really get the point when you just look at it from pounds and pence and not size of property. But
Mm.
yeah,
So
that
it's a
was
mentality thing.
yeah, and I think that could be a big to everyone that's almost like pushing the decision further down the line. There are going to be some quite
Yeah.
hard decisions and things which are probably you go against the grain of society when you then
Well,
come to
certainly,
transact it.
yeah, certainly the society they've lived in. Like, so your parents and my parents are a
Yes.
similar age, and it was always like
Yep.
I remember my dad talking to me about it. And it was like this could do as a starter home, but then at some point you'd move up and you'd have a bigger house, and you'd get a garden and a driveway and la da da. But actually, like my wife and I live in a terraced house. It's the only house we've ever owned, and we've lived here 11, 12, no, 14 years now. Um, and it's no part of me. Sometimes I look at kind of buying other houses in the local area, ones that we could afford, and it's just not worth the outlay to me in terms of paying all
Mm,
those costs and the upheaval. But to have like a semi-detached house, buying a detached house in Kent is totally off the menu for us, like cost-wise. So I,
mm,
I just think that landscape has changed, and people of an older generation would have like that to start a home. This is like a family home. This is an extravagant one, and then you'd move down. I don't. I'm not sure that fits with the current like generation of people who live here. I think some people, unfortunately, they won't be able to own a house at all because they've just been totally priced out of the market and haven't had family members be able to help them. So any kind of conversation like that is totally mute. But I don't think it fits currently. The kind of go up the ladder and then down the ladder.
yeah. And I think that's a good observation. I think there's definitely some of my friends who are still on that get the bigger house, get the I need the bifold doors at the back and the nice
Mm,
extension of the kitchen, and that's the next thing, and that's in the next house. But yeah, I said I've got quite a lot of friends who live on the continent, and there just isn't this obsession with property at all. Um, I don't, it's just a very peculiar UK thing.
yeah, when you say continent, do you mean like Europe?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So
Yeah, yeah.
Germany, Poland, Italy. Um,
Do you think they are happier with what they have than people in England?
I think it's. I think there's just less pressure, and I think also the prices as a multiple of salaries is a lot lower, so you're able to afford
Mm,
a fairly decent property for not many times your income. So I think now is it like nearly 10 times averaging 10 times the average salary is the price of a property.
yeah, yeah,
I'd imagine I don't know the figures off the top of my head, but anywhere probably at least half that would be what based off what my friends have paid for houses and what they earn in some of those countries. It's definitely not as stretching.
yeah. I'd be very surprised if you knew the German property prices off the top of your head.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Um, but I think it does question it.
You just pull that out of your brain somewhere. Yeah, I think there's something here about contentness as well. Like I sometimes I get this thing of um, I see other people around me buying like big houses, renting cars, etc.,
Mm,
growing their family, and I'm like, actually, at what
yeah,
cost is that? Like, are you stressed out beyond belief? Could you afford to miss a month or two of being at work? And um, I think the answer to that is probably yes, they are stressed, and no,
yes,
they couldn't skip a month of work or so. I think I'd rather live in uh, peace. So I think I've recently, whilst being at work, I've been massively under pressure with a lot of too much work and not enough time. And I've started making decisions now based on whether they'll take me towards peace or pressure. Um, I can't remember if I mentioned it to you or not, but
yes. I think we covered it a couple of weeks ago. I think that's quite a nice
oh, did we?
concept.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Clearly, I forgot about that. Right. Sorry. Yeah, and I just wonder whether, like, thinking about planning it for older age now, like, it's hard to think about who I'm going to be when I'm 60, when I'm 50, even though I'm getting close to 40. It's difficult by design, I think, to do. Our brains don't work like that. We think about now and maybe tomorrow, maybe a bit later. Trying to think about who we are when I'm 70 years old, what I look like, where I live, it is really, really difficult. And I wonder if that's kind of why people don't plan ahead as much. Because I think it's a rare thing. Like, I've met very, very few people who are our age or younger that fully understand the power of like investing into a pension
Hmm.
or understand the importance of actually like having that like that security for you. Um,
Yeah. And I
mm,
think a lot of it is it's an old. It happens later. I don't need to worry about it now. Retirement's for old age, and there is never that. I think I was listening to one podcast, and I think you can get like AI generated pictures of what you would look like when you're older. And it's like you can do that, and then you've got a picture of you when you're in 75 or 80. And it's almost all of the decisions that you're making now are actually for that person. Because to your point, you can then visualize
mm,
you, and it becomes a bit more tangible then. It isn't just this person in the future. It's no, that's you in the future. And it will come around pretty quickly. And you can make a lot of choices now.
yeah, that'll benefit. I mean, you and I we talk a lot about buying freedom, and
Yes.
I've also heard people say like your house is your most expensive thing that you'll ever buy. But actually, I'd rather spend more on buying freedom for me, both financially, so I can do what I'd like when I like, without having to need an income making work optional. I'd rather that be more expensive than housing kind of costs. But it's difficult to kind of process and think about because it's so far away. Our brains are not really wired for that. You've got to be really intentional, um, something around it. Alex, is there anything more you'd like to mention about houses or can your house be your pension? Any other thoughts before we move to reasonable or ridiculous?
No, I think we've covered it. I say if there's listeners, I'd love to hear from you and hear your opinion because I think it is a bit of a hot topic and something that we'd love to get some different perspectives on. But I think certainly for me, I think we're not saying it can't be. I think it's not wise for it to be your sole source of retirement income. And there are implications of it. And it isn't just as simple as being, my house is my pension. That happens when I'm old. I'm young now, therefore I don't need to think about
Yeah.
it. And
The end.
yes. Like, I think that's the kind of logic we want to avoid. So, but yeah.
Yeah. Do some reading, do some thinking about it. Diversify. Kind of have a private pension, have a workplace pension. If you're self-employed, please start paying into a pension.
Yes.
Use the tax relief that you currently are afforded, especially if you're in the 40% bracket. That is free money you're leaving on the table. Just do something that future you will thank you for. Alex, last question about this. I've just thought of it. Do you include your house value in your net worth kind of calculation? Because I think a lot of people do. And actually, I think it's misleading when they see a bigger number than is actually spendable.
Yeah, so funny, so I do it for both me and my wife. We have like a family net worth tracker, and which we update every probably 3 to 6 months. And it is split. So the house is on there, but the whole thing is split between accessible and inaccessible money. So like
liquid and
yeah,
illiquid.
exactly. So like ISAs and cash savings fit into they're currently accessible. Pensions are not accessible, and obviously until we get to our mid-50s, and then the house is also not accessible. So we have a total wealth, but then split between the two. How about you? Do you do a similar thing?
No, yeah. So I don't have. I'm imagining you having a fancy looking spreadsheet, etc., to work all that out. I definitely don't have that. I will very occasionally do the maths mentally of just adding up ISA, pension, cash availability, etc. I don't include it purely because it's not spendable.
Fair.
Yeah. I mean, it makes it seem a lot better than it is. But unless you're going to release the equity, you're going to move house, you can't realize the value of that. Like you can't spend your bricks. It buys you some certainty, and eventually we won't have a mortgage, and we'll have less cash flow requirements each month. But you can't easily turn it into cash unless you want to get a lodger or put some rooms on Airbnb.
That's it. And also, I just mentioned when we looking at our like FI number, so the house is not included in that. So like when like the investments that we would ultimately pull on for income, the house is excluded, and also it needs to be the net value of your house, so it's your house less your mortgage, so it's your house equity that you would then capture in your assets. So it would be the net asset. So we've got assets and liabilities, and the difference between the two is your net worth.
Yeah, maybe you should make this spreadsheet into a sellable product.
It's got
make it colourful.
It's got a FI number on it, so you put how much income you want, and it tells you how you put in estimated return, how much money you're going to put in every month, and it'll tell you when, or works backwards, sorry, from how much income you want, based off then how much you will need to invest every month in order to get to that your FI portfolio number. So yeah.
How have we done 76 episodes now, and I didn't know you had that?
Well, I
didn't ask you.
Yeah.
Basically.
I think because I work with spreadsheets all the time, it's not that fancy. But I think it's very helpful.
It's certainly fancy to me.
Yeah. So what I can do, I can share you a copy and show you what that looks like, and then it's pretty much plug and play. So you just add in your add in your numbers and play around with it, and it adds as a bit of a tracker. And
I'll test it in the week if you send it to me.
Yeah,
and
nice.
I'll report back next week. But if anyone listening, if you'd like a copy of said spreadsheet that's kind of plug and play with made by Alex the accountant. Do email us, and I'll see about getting you a copy if he's willing. Right.
Reasonable or ridiculous?
It's about time and saving a bit of money and some manual labour. So we're about to have some of our downstairs flooring changed. Our laminates were really old. It's seen way better days. So I've had quotes for that, etc. Done some measuring, blah, blah, blah. The quote we've had includes removal of the old flooring, which costs £87. I'm half thinking to not pay that and to take it to the tip myself. It will be 1, if not 2 tip runs. The tip is about 5 or 6 miles from my house. It would take about 30 minutes door to door from my house to the tip, unload, back home. Possibly get it done in 1 car journey, maybe need 2. Is it reasonable or ridiculous to pay the company to take that away for £78? Or do you think that cost is ridiculous? Or do you think it's reasonable for me to do the work and to save the £78?
Yeah, I've got a bit of experience with this. And so we replaced our garage door. So we had an old wooden garage door and got a new, a bit of a fancy one put in. And they offered us £20 to break up the old door and take it to the tip. And my thinking was, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to break it up myself. I will cram as much wood into the back of my little Renault Clio as possible and go to the tip and do it myself. And it would have been the easiest 20 quid I would have spent, to be honest, because it took longer than I thought. The garage door, it didn't break up as nice and neatly as I thought. And it was a real pain. So in my mind, I think it's pretty reasonable to pay, because it's quite a lot of effort to lift up floorboards. There'll be nails, there'll be splinters. It's quite messy. I think it's a reasonable cost. You can always go and ask if they could reduce it or see if there's a better price for it. But I think for me, I think it seems reasonable to just get them to do it. And then that frees you up probably quite a lot of time when you consider having to rip it up and stuff. Or maybe there's a bit in the middle where you could rip it up.
Yeah. I mean, they would take it.
Yeah.
They would take it up and leave it either outside my house or they would take it away. So my thinking is the removal out the house is done. I would have to chop it, maybe cut it. I've got a saw, like a powered electric saw that I could just buzz through them with, and a work horse and things. I have all the tools.
Oh, okay. So they're doing the actual lifting out.
They're doing the lifting. It's just disposal. So my
fine.
thinking is I would just lob it all in as much as I can in my estate car, my trusty old Volvo estate, drive it to the tip, offload it and come back. Fingers crossed I get it done in one go. But I think that's the reality. My brain is telling me that will be simple. It will take you less than an hour, and that's going to make you £78 for the hour. No, £87 for the hour. I would say that's reasonable. If it takes me 2 hours, it's not as good. If it's a right ball ache and it takes me ages, I'm going to be like, I should have paid it.
It's a lesson learned.
Yeah.
Because I always think that the hassle is the ripping out.
That's being done. Yeah, I'm paying for that.
Shoving it in the car and sorting it. Yeah, so I think actually then, to do it for an hour's round trip, I might flip and say, yeah, it's actually reasonable for you to do it yourself.
If it is an hour, and if it does go well, I think I'm gonna do it myself and come back full circle.
Yes.
It's being fitted in October, so in a couple of weeks I'll come back and be like, remember episode 76 when I said this?
Yeah.
I now hated it and I should have paid it. Or
when your arms are full of splinters.
That's it, yeah. Or I've saved 87 quid and I've gone out for dinner.
Do you have to pay at the tip to dispose it, or can you get rid of the wood for free? Because I know sometimes it varies.
I think I can get rid of it for free because it's not commercial. It's just DIY from your house.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, we'll come full circle, I think, and I'll re-mention it.
I think that's good. And the fact you have a Volvo is definitely
cavernous.
An advantage, yes.
Yeah, definitely. Just chuck everything in there. I'm going to rope my wife in to help me as well. Yeah. Okay. Quick summary then. Do you want to do the summary or me?
Yeah.
Wait, I should
You could do it. Yeah,
because
yeah.
you did the you did the intro. Okay. So Alex's return on Heartbeats is him and his wife for her birthday went to Winkworth Arboretum, which is a National Trust property in Surrey. They stayed at a hotel, had a great time. It looks good. If you're in the local area, I think it's worth your time to go or at least look at it. We talked about whether your house can be your pension as the main body. We hear it said a lot, and I think we think people don't think enough about the logistics of that. Yes, it could be your pension. It will involve a lot of work, selling, downsizing, legal fees, stamp duty, transport, etc. I'm talking myself out of it as we speak. And just think about that in advance. Like putting some money in a pension today will give you a lot more choice and options. It's certainly what we do, what we've been kind of proponents of since we started working. So if that applies to you or someone else, let them know. Get them to listen to the episode. If you're on the other side of that and you believe your house is your pension, we'd like to hear from you. So email us in at nursingyourwaytowealth@gmail.com. Alex's Reasonable or Ridiculous is garage doors are not worth DIY, smashing up, taking to the tip. My flooring one is yet to be known. That's going to be done in the next couple of weeks and we'll come full circle and we'll see if we're correct or not. Alex, thanks for your time, my friend. That's been episode 76. Can your house be your pension? The answer is maybe, if you've thought about it and you've been intentional. Is there anything else you'd like to mention? And how was my summary?
Yeah, that was a really good summary. Really impressed. And yeah, nothing else to mention. I say, yeah, really keen to hear from anybody, get their opinions on this. I know it's a hot topic, so yeah, be great to hear from you.
Yeah, it'd be interesting as well to see if any upcoming budget changes make us kind of have to pivot or change these ideas totally. It could be a total non-starter in 30 years, couldn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, diversify is key. None of what we discuss on the show is to be considered financial or health advice, and we recommend you always do your own research or consult an independent financial advisor or a doctor when making your financial or health decisions.